So I do indeed. Behind that bush is a big buffalo bull, but in front of that bush is Hosana Male Leopard. So we came along the road and we found very fresh footprints and dung, and we saw a buffalo up ahead, and we thought, well, maybe he's at the waterhole. And then we came along, and Hosana was sitting staring at the buffalo, as he is busy doing now. So there's the two of them kind of facing off. How cool is this? Look at that. So you see the buffalo is now looking up at Hosana. I don't know what he's doing. He's kind of following around the buffalo, going right in behind it every now and then, and kind of just generally looking as though he's going to stalk it. Then he went across to a bush and found some piece of meat that he ended up pulling out of the bush and ate that. And there we go. Look at that. How cool is that? Not every day that you get to see a leopard following a buffalo around. And he's so curious, this cat. Hosana is another story. We wouldn't expect a young male leopard to follow a big old bull buffalo the way that he is. Look how he's doing. Isn't that cool? This is very, very cool. I think it's amazing. Now, the buffalo's drifting off, but Hosana's still keeping him in his kind of watch and is busy moving in that direction. And you can see why a leopard is so difficult to find in these kind of thickets. Now, Caitlin, you want to know how we know whether a leopard is a boy or a girl. Well, Caitlin, in this area we're very lucky that we know most of the leopards, and we can tell just by looking at their spot patterns. But the best way to tell is by size. Male leopards are much bigger than female leopards. So even though this male is very young, he's still bigger than that female leopard that Brent has. And so she's already a larger size, so he gets a little bit of a thicker neck as well. And, well, he's got male testicles is the only way to put it, underneath his tail, which is the easiest way to be able to see them. But you see how he's sneaking up on the buffalo. Isn't this cool? Now, I forgot actually to even introduce myself and to welcome you guys. So it's very good to have Evoca West with us this afternoon. And my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got David. So it's been all excitement, and that's why we forgot to say hello. So I do apologize. Remember, we want lots and lots of questions. I'm going to try and keep up with this buffalo and with this leopard as well, and try and make sure that we don't lose them in the thickets, because where they're going, it does get quite dense. So we're going to try and just head in that direction. But he managed to find a little meal somehow. I don't know what it was or where it's come from. Maybe a little bit of a piece of meat that something else left here. So we're going to just try and sneak in. Okay, where is he? He's over there. I just don't want to disturb either the buffalo or the leopard, because they're both right here. So the buffalo is moving off slightly, and the leopard is the buffalo moving around. Now, this buffalo is way too big for a leopard to hunt and kill. It would never be able to hunt this down, but you'll have a situation where he's curious because he's a young male. He's left his mother. He's now trying to figure life out. He's interested in the buffalo, and that's why he's following it around, just trying to see what it's doing. But he would never really be able to get close to it. That buffalo is far too powerful for a leopard like this. If it was a baby buffalo, maybe, but a big, fully grown adult buffalo like this, no ways. Look at that. See the buffalo? I wonder if the buffalo is going to turn around and chase him. It looks as though he's about to sniff that buffalo. Now, I don't want to move because I'm scared the buffalo moves, but I'm going to try and just go a little further forward so Dave can see what's going on. Let's try and just get in here. Hosana, what are you doing? Now, I've lost the leopard. He was right there with the buffalo. So I don't know. Where is the leopard? Dave, can you see the leopard? I think he's just off to the left of where that buffalo is. He must be right there. So, John, the hardest animal to spot, it's obviously dependent on what we look at. I mean, there's a lot of animals out here that are animals that probably are not very well known. So things like aardvarks or pangolins, they're very, very difficult to be able to spot those because they're nocturnal. But if you're talking about big animals, the hardest of the big animals to spot are these leopards. Look at how that leopard is blending into its environment. You see how the spots break up the outline, and it makes it very difficult to see them. So they're tough to find because they spend a lot of time in thick, dense bush, and that makes it really hard to be able to see them. So very, very cool to see this guy out in the open. We got lucky that we spotted him right out in the open, and that we had this buffalo that was around as well. It's just made for such an interesting interaction between these two. And I don't think it's finished yet. I think this leopard is going to follow this buffalo around for a while longer. Even though it's not food, it's just curiosity. And this particular leopard often likes to join other leopards as well. So I think he has a situation where he likes to kind of have company of other animals, especially ones that he's not hunting. Right, now from one spotted cat hidden in the grass watching a buffalo, let's send you back across to another spotted cat who's already found herself a meal. Running after the buffalo and stalking it. What he's doing, I have absolutely no idea. Now, that buffalo is far too large for him. He has taken a buffalo before, but it was a buffalo calf. It was never a big, fully grown male buffalo like this, and he will never be able to pull that down. It takes prides of lions. They have to be able to try and pull a buffalo like that down by using numbers in strength and using lots of them to be able to do it. So it's a crazy situation that he's busy kind of stalking this big bull buffalo, and he's never going to be able to bring it down. But I think it's more curiosity than anything else, and the fact that he's a young individual that just wants to try and kind of test his luck a little bit and hone his skill, and I think there's a bit of playfulness in it as well. You see, now he's given up. He's decided, nope, I'm not worried anymore, and he's going to carry on. But he's really looking amazing. Now he's going to where the buffalo urinated. You see, he's smelling around there. So I wonder, and now he's going to roll in it. Now this is very interesting because leopards do this from time to time. What they'll do is they find the dung of buffalo or the urine of buffalo, and they'll roll in it. And the reason they do that is it just masks their scent a little bit and helps to conceal them and make sure that they don't get into a situation where they get smelt before they get seen, or when they're hunting, they're able to stalk without getting smelt at all. But how cool is this? You see, he's still watching the buffalo that is busy wallowing in the water at the moment. He's always a very busy cat. He's got a lot of energy. It's because he's still, like I say, a little bit younger. He's only about 2 years old now, and so it's not very old at all. And he's got a long way to go to become a dominant male leopard, but he's certainly practicing skills that he's going to need as he gets older. And the fact that he's willing to try these things is quite interesting. So Hope, yes, there are different kinds of buffalo. Here in South Africa, we only get the one type of buffalo, which is the African buffalo or Cape buffalo. And then you will get also what's called a water buffalo, which occurs in Asia. And there has been some that have been released in Australia as well. Now, I'm going to try and catch up with this leopard quickly because it's moving around quite a bit, and we don't want a situation where we lose sight of it. So while I try and kind of catch up with it, let's send you back across to Brent and Tundi and the little cute cub. Well, for now, he's just having a bit of a relax and a scratch of his chin. So he's trying to probably get rid of a little itch that he has. Maybe there was a tick that had caught him there. Now, off he goes. He's going to walk into the most brilliant sunset that we could possibly ask for. So he's just kind of meandering off into the bush, and you can see those orange colors that are there. Really absolutely beautiful. Now, I'm going to try and keep up with him because he's moving off into a thicket, and so I want to just make sure that he doesn't go too far. And the reason he's moving that way is because there is that buffalo has gone in that direction, and so I'm going to try and see if we can just get around so that we can see him that side. But how beautiful is the sunset this evening? It's just everything has kind of come together absolutely perfectly. So there's our leopard still inside there watching the buffalo, which is also walking around in this area. So we'll just stop here. Should be perfect to be able to see him. Now I've got my lights of my car on so that I can see where I'm driving. It will just be handy to follow him with that. Normally what we'll do is turn off our lights and use an infrared light, but it's going to be easier for me to drive like this. So, Mrs. Michael, no, leopards don't hunt in packs. A leopard is the only true solitary predator that we have in terms of the big predatory animals here. So if you think of wild dogs, hyenas, cheetah, lions, all of those will at some point form groupings together when hunting. Whereas with a leopard, it's a sole hunter. There has been one or two reported cases of a female bringing down something and the cubs coming in and trying to kill it as well. But it's been pretty much that they hunt on their own, and they spend most of their life on their own. The only time you'll find a leopard together is if they're mating or if they're a mother with cubs at the time. So it's never really a situation where they move around too much. But how cool is that you've got two of Africa's most iconic animals kind of facing off towards each other? So the buffalo kind of grazing and the leopard just following him around. It's an absolutely amazing thing to see, and you're being so spoiled because this is not something that you'll see very often at all. It's in fact very rare to watch a leopard following around buffalo like this. It's very strange, and particularly big buffalo bulls. Normally what you'll find with leopards is when they follow buffalo, it's herds of buffalo, but to follow a big buffalo bull like this is absolutely crazy. Look, you see when the buffalo lifted his head, how he drops his head? The leopard tries to get lower to make sure that it's hidden a little bit. So Rohan, the reason the leopard is rolling in the urine of the buffalo is to hide his scent. So a leopard has a scent and a smell, and so as he walks around, things like impalas and various other types of animals will be able to smell that leopard. So if it rolls around in the buffalo urine, then it smells like buffalo urine or buffalo dung, and it's not easy for the other animals to then smell, oh, there's a leopard here, and then they are far more alert. If they can't smell a leopard, then they're more relaxed and they'll feed, and they won't actually try and go after, well, try and run away from that area. So it's important for a leopard to do it because it just masks his scent a little bit, makes it easier for him to move around unnoticed. But what we're going to try and do is just sit tight for a little bit, because our leopard is not moving too much, and look at the beautiful color in the sky as well. Wow, it is a perfect way to finish a day, that's for sure. We are being thoroughly spoiled. So Tyler, you're asking how we can tell an age of a leopard. Well, it's not very easy. It's a situation where you've got to have seen them quite a lot. There are some things that you can use. So you can use the ears if the ears are very tatty, or if they've got scars on their faces. And in males, they get what's called a dewlap, which is a type of a skin that hangs down from their chin, between their chest and their chin. And that skin, the bigger it gets, the older the leopard is. That coupled with, like I say, if they've got little cuts in their ears or scratches on their faces, and then also size. So leopards obviously grow throughout their life, and as they start getting bigger, it can lead you to tell what sort of age they are. Now, the thing is, here in this part of the world is that we know the leopards so well that we know when he was born, and we know that he was born just over 2 years ago and has been in this area since then. And so that's why we know him and know how old he is exactly. But you see that the buffalo's moved off a little bit, so now he's following the buffalo again. He's just stood up, and I'm pretty sure he'll move a little bit closer to where the buffalo is. Now, the thing is, it's going to get very thick if he does go that way. So, Rohan, you're asking how many elk a leopard would eat in a day. Well, Rohan, we don't actually get any elk here in South Africa, so none is the answer to that. Here in South Africa, we don't have anything like that. We have what's called impala, which is what you saw with Taylor. And so in a day, probably not very many. So you'll have a situation if they catch something big like that female leopard that you saw with Brent. If it catches a big, fully grown male impala, that's 3-4 days worth of food, not just one day. So they don't eat an antelope per day. They can eat an antelope and go almost 10 days before they have another one. It depends just on how big that antelope is, or that meal that they get. And it's probably why he's following buffaloes, because one is he probably likes the taste. Two is that he's killed a buffalo before and it was a lot of meat for him. So he had a young baby buffalo, which was 3 days of food. And so that's maybe why he's trying to kind of follow this buffalo along. But there he's walking off into the sunset. Now, I'm not sure how long we're going to be able to follow him in there, because it gets very, very thick and very dense, but we're going to try our best to see if we can. And so while I try to catch up with him, let's send you back across to Brent, who's driving in the darkness and is hoping to find something that is nocturnal. It is your favorite leopard, Brent. Hosana, I know, is one of Brent's absolute favorites, because Brent was the first person to ever see Hosana and to ever find the den where Hosana was being kept. But Hosana is now gone into an area that I don't think we're going to be able to go. There we go. We can get one last view of him, I think, before he disappears. He's gone down a very steep drainage bank, and he's going into a thicket that we're just not going to be able to follow him, unfortunately. So he's kind of heading there. You can see he's kind of lost him behind the bushes. So that was still absolutely amazing. At least we had luck and we managed to find him, and we had to see the buffalo as well. Very, very, very cool thing to see. Now, hopefully this leopard will carry on moving around tonight and maybe find some food. It looks like he's now interested in maybe hunting. The way that he's walking around, he's smelling, it sounds like he's just chased something down here. I just heard him running along down this way. So I don't know if he maybe chased a little scrub hare. So we get a type of thing out here called a scrub hare. And so he might have chased that. Right. I don't know how we're going to get out of here, but anyway, John, you want to know what my favorite animal is. Well, my favorite animal is a leopard. I absolutely love leopards, and the more time I spend with them, the more I love them. So they're the best animal. I just love how shy and secretive they are, and they are always getting up to something. So it's always interesting to watch them, and especially here, we get to see the most amazing dynamics when it comes to the leopards. So very, very cool to see. So today has been the perfect afternoon for me. Right, we're going to try and get out of the mess we've gotten ourselves into and try and get out of this thicket. And while we do that, let's send you back across to Taylor so she can say goodbye from all of us.